Chapter 11. The phone jolted Matt awake at 6:17 a.m. He fumbled for it in the darkness, squinting at Joe Foster's name on the screen. "Barry," he answered. "There's a tape," Joe said without preamble. Matt sat up, instantly alert. "What kind of tape?" "An audio tape," Joe replied. "Sent to a reporter at the Vista Ridge Courier. They say it's Merrick, his voice. The editor called it in after a reporter found it this morning. They're holding it for us." Matt swung his legs over the side of the bed. "The Courier? Over on the east side by Central?" "That's it. Corner of Elm and Main, old brick building. I'm heading there now." "I'll shower and meet you. Give me an hour," Matt said, glancing at his watch. "Make it 45, Joe replied and hung up. Typically, Matt started each day with a morning run, a ritual that had become increasingly important since the divorce proceedings began. 5 miles, sometimes 7, just him and the rhythm of his breathing, pounding out his frustrations step by step on the asphalt. It kept him sane. Today it would have to wait. The shower was quick and cold. As he dressed, Matt's mind circled back to the crime scene at the Restway Inn. The headless body posed in the chair, the severed head positioned on the chest of drawers, staring back at its own corpse, and the missing genitals. In the kitchen, Matt forced himself to slow down and make breakfast. Scrambled eggs with hot sauce, 2 pieces of toast, strong black coffee. He'd learned the hard way that skipping meals on active investigations meant poor decisions. Food was fuel, and he had no idea when he'd eat again. As he chewed, he reviewed the facts. A staged, ritualistic murder. A victim whose death had been meticulously planned. No blood at the scene, which meant he was killed elsewhere. The body cleaned and posed. Mutilation of a body typically suggested deep personal hatred. Someone who wanted the victim to suffer, to be humiliated even in death. The missing genitals pointed towards sexual rage. That usually meant a lover, possibly female. Who were the women in Raymond Merrick's life? Penny McKnight was an obvious suspect, the alleged victim of a sexual assault. But what about Sam Patel's sister, Priya? The pretty clerk had given Raymond her number. And then there was Barbara Carter, the girlfriend mentioned by Raymond's mother. Could there be others? Matt made a note to speak with the detective investigating the allegations involving Penny. There might be connections he was missing. He downed the last of his coffee and grabbed his keys. The Vista Ridge Courier occupied the first 2 floors of a 4-story red brick building from the 1920s, nestled in what had once been the struggling downtown area. Joe's unmarked vehicle was already parked out front when Matt arrived. Matt found a spot half a block down and walked back. Inside, a young receptionist directed him up to the 2nd floor, where Joe stood waiting by the elevator doors. "Took you long enough," Joe said. "They're waiting for us." They walked down the hallway together toward a glass-walled office in the far corner. "Media's having a field day with this." "Did you see the paper?" Joe asked. "No, what are they saying?" "They're calling him the Vista Ridge Ripper. I hate the fucking media," Joe said. Matt grimaced. "Christ. That's all we need. Turning this into some kind of horror movie." The office door read, "Melissa Harmon, City Editor," in block letters. Joe knocked once before pushing it open. Melissa Harmon, Mel to most, looked up from behind a desk drowning in stacks of papers and manila folders. She was stout, early 40s, with short-cropped salt and pepper hair and thick black-framed glasses. "About time you boys showed up," she said, rising from her chair. Her voice was deep and raspy, a long-time smoker's voice. "This isn't exactly something I wanted sitting around here." Joe made the introductions. "Special Agent Matt Barry, Texas Bureau of Investigation. Mel Harmon, City Editor." Mel shot Matt a quick, assessing glance before nodding toward a small conference table in the corner of her office. "Let's sit." On the table sat a brown manila envelope and a dated Sony cassette recorder that looked like it belonged in a museum. "It came in Friday morning," Mel explained, pointing at the envelope but not touching it. "Marked urgent. It was in our drop box outside. But for some reason, it got mixed in with a stack of press releases and neighborhood announcements. My reporter, Chris Devereaux, didn't notice it until he was sorting through the stack this morning." Joe pulled out a pair of latex gloves and snapped them on. "I need the names of everyone who's handled this envelope since it arrived." Mel ran a hand through her short hair. I know I did, and Chris. I'll ask around to see if anyone else might have touched it before it got to him. She paused. This is a small local paper. I We've never been involved in something like this before. Matt pointed at the cassette recorder. May we listen to it? Mel shifted uncomfortably, as if reluctant to touch the machine again. Chris transferred the audio to his computer already, made a digital copy. She caught Joe's sharp look and added defensively, It was sent to the paper. We have the right to have a copy. But you haven't released anything, Matt said. It wasn't a question. No, Mel replied. Called you guys first, but I can't sit on something like this forever. News is news. Joe rubbed his forehead. Let's hear it. Mel pressed the play button. There was a hiss of static, followed by the sound of uneven breathing. When the voice finally came, it was tight with fear. My name is Raymond Merrick. The words hung in the air, followed by a silence that stretched for several seconds. Matt felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. The voice was young, trembling. Debts must be paid. Evildoers must be punished. Another pause, longer this time. The sound of a sob caught in a throat. My body can be found at the Restway Inn, room 104. Please. The next sentence was cut off abruptly. The tape hissed with empty static before clicking off. The silence in the office was oppressive. Matt glanced at Joe, who had gone very still, his eyes fixed on the cassette player. That's it, Mel said. I've listened to the whole thing, front and back. That's all there is. Play it again, Joe said. They listened to the tape twice more. Those aren't his words, Matt said finally. Someone made him say that. Joe nodded slowly. Debts must be paid. Evildoers must be punished. That's not teenager speak. That's someone else's message. Mel had gone pale. You think they recorded him before? We need to get this to the lab, Matt said. Joe was already making the call. He looked at Mel. Where's your drop box located? Front of the building, left of the main entrance, she replied. But don't get your hopes up. We empty it every day, and there are no cameras pointed at it. Anyone could have slipped it in there without being seen. Matt studied the envelope. Plain brown manila, standard office supply store variety. No return address. The courier, written in black marker. Were there any other markings on it? Postage? Matt asked. No postage, Mel replied. Hand delivered. Joe hung up his phone. Techs are on their way. After they fingerprint whoever touched the envelope and tape, they'll check the drop box and surrounding area. Not that I'm expecting much. Matt stared at the cassette player, his mind racing. Whoever did this wanted the body found quickly. They wanted publicity. But they didn't want to call it in themselves, Joe added. Or they're playing games, Matt suggested. Making a statement, turning it into a media spectacle. Mel cleared her throat. I need to ask, are we talking about a public safety issue here? Is there a danger to others? Before either man could answer, there was a knock at the office door. A young reporter poked his head in. Mel, you need to see this. It's breaking on social now. Matt felt a cold weight settle in his stomach even before the young man held up his phone. On the screen was a blurry cell phone photo of room 104 at the Restway Inn, showing just enough of the crime scene to make out what it was. The text overlay read, Star QB Merrick found decapitated, exclusive details coming. Joe swore under his breath. So much for containment, Matt said. The crime scene techs arrived in force, quickly taking possession of the tape and envelope. After giving their statements and collecting contact information for Mel and Chris, Matt and Joe stepped outside into the humid morning air. Merrick sounded scared out of his mind, Joe said. Matt nodded, trying to shake the sound of Raymond's voice from his mind. So, he was taken, held somewhere. For how long? Forced to make a tape, and then murdered. After the murder, his body is taken to the motel room. The timeline had major gaps. When was he taken? Did he go willingly? If not, he was a big kid, athletic. How was he subdued? Where was he taken? Why the tape? Joe leaned against the brick wall. Sometimes killers like to leave a calling card. Maybe the tape is this killer's calling card, their signature. Debts must be paid. Evildoers must be punished, Matt said, repeating the words from the tape. The phrasing sounded odd. What debts? The rape? Traffic moved steadily past them on Main Street. An attractive woman in a navy business suit walked toward the entrance of the bank across the street. She noticed Matt's badge clipped to his belt and smiled at him. Without thinking, he returned the smile. Joe caught the exchange and elbowed him. "Do you really think that's a good idea?" he said, nodding in the direction of the disappearing woman. "The current Mrs. Barry has a contract out on you." Matt shot him a withering look, refusing to take the bait. "Let's talk to the lead on Penny's case and watch the video. There's got to be something there we're missing." Joe pushed himself off the wall. "It certainly looks connected, doesn't it? The timing, the mutilation, those words on the tape. That or someone has gone out of their way to make us believe it," Matt replied, his eyes narrowing. "Either way, I want to see that video." Joe nodded and started toward his vehicle. "I'll make the calls, meet you at the station in 20.